down there and get all the, it's not going to take much to take 15 chairs and bring them outside the room, and at least help her get those set up for this afternoon's test. Okay, so, by the way, I'm tested out. I'm really, really, really tired of just giving you that. Okay, so this is probability and stats. I kind of want to go over the front page because remember one of the things we do to start the test is I ask you to please read the directions. Half the people just kind of look at me and I'm like, dude, read the directions. So, because you never know, something might pop up. But you guys should be really familiar with your directions on these tests. I think we've done a pretty good job getting through that. So, on the answer booklet and a graph paper booklet are provided. So you're actually going to have the opportunity. We will, I think it says graph paper booklet, so we don't even have to bring graph paper down. So they have a booklet with graph paper. You should follow the instructions on the front cover of both booklets. So when that time happens, please read that. If you need additional answer paper on graph paper, ask the invigilator for a continuation booklet or a graph paper booklet. Hopefully we'll have extras. Answer all questions. Okay, that was on film.
No, I just turned it on right now.
She admits it. All right, give a non-exact numerical answer to 3 sig figs. We've been really good about doing that, right? Mm-hmm. 1 decimal place in the case of angles or degrees. Use of electronic calculators. Please don't come without one. I think you guys were really good. Not one of you asked for one. You reminded the need for good, clear presentation. In other words, don't put arrows to get to the next question kind of deal.
Show your work.
Show your work, right? And at the end of the exam, fasten them all together. At the end of the exam, you understand that it's worth 50 points. Mm-hmm. Okay, the last one was 75. This one is 50.
What's the goal to, like, if you were to get an E, just a pass, like what's the bare
About 43.
Oh, okay.
Approximately 43.
Right, it changes every year.
It changes every year.
Like,
1 year was 39.
Yeah, Dimple's year was 39.
Mm-hmm.
But it's never in the 50s?
I have, well, you know, I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope not. Right.
Everyone did really well.
Yeah, that'd be unfortunate. If they all think it was as good as y'all thought, maybe, I don't know. Now see, your class is the only class that thought it was that good, because the 4th and 5th period said it was horrible.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because we had so much more time.
Well, it's better for us.
You had a lot of time to think.
You
Better
guys,
for
you
you.
guys.
That's funny. Okay, so I just kind of want to look at the questions before we start jumping in and doing them. Kind of get a feel. You guys have a test in front of you. This will be a test that we can kind of work through together.
Oh.
I believe we did number 2 together already. I mean, at least on a test.
I think that was on.
We have
was.
So, yeah, the test you have in front of you is due Thursday.
Next week.
Yeah, and this one is going to be one that we're going to kind of work together on.
It's due today, Charity.
Today.
Yeah, turn it in right.
That's how I work. We hear you in the morning or after the test because like
Yeah.
third period's athletic banquet, so we.
Oh yeah, Thursday's a rough day. Whatever time you get it to be.
Just Thursday.
I'm going to be at the pool party
So just get you
in my bikini. Make sure y'all show.
That was on video.
That was on video, shoot.
Oh,
I won't promise I won't wear it.
Yeah.
All right.
disregard that.
Yeah, please disregard it. All right. So I kind of want to look at the different types of problems and just kind of pinpoint what we think, what type of question they are before we go into the process of doing them. So the first one, when Anaya goes to school, the probability that she walks 0.3, and the probability that she walks is 0.3, and the probability that she cycles is 0.65. If she does not walk or cycle, she takes the bus when she's excited. When Anaya walks, the probability that she's late is 0.15. When she cycles, the probability she's late is 0.1. And when she takes the bus, the probability she's late is 0.6. Given that Anaya is late, find the probability.
Is that what she's saying?
Tree diagram.
Tree diagram.
Yeah.
The tree diagram. Yeah. Tree diagram split 3 ways,
And then it
right?
splits off 2 in each one.
And it splits off 2 at each one. So what is the first 3 going to look like when we get to it? When we go to
BMW.
Yeah. So it's going to be that she walks, she
0.3.
she cycles,
Or she takes the
or
bus.
she takes the bus. Okay. Yes.
So bus would be 0.05. Because it should, that 0.3 plus 0.65 plus something should add up to 1.
Thank you. We didn't even talk about that yet. Okay. So so we're cool. We know how to. Yes.
Is that in the packet that you just handed out?
No.
This is a totally different test.
Okay, I was gonna say I.
Right, so you have a test you're going to go home and work with by yourself and kind of get through that process like we did before. I think that's a good way to study for it, to have your own, not me doing it with you.
Mhm.
And then we have one we're going to work together on. okay?
Uh-huh.
But we're gonna look at each one of them and then come back to it and kind of figure out how we do things, okay? Given that Anaya is late, find the probability. That is a really important equation that we had to have learned. Yes. Do you remember?
Probability of A and B
Over
over probability of B.
Yeah.
B.
It's, in this case, it's a probability of, what is it, the probability she rides a cycle?
C
So,
given L.
yeah, it's the probability
I
of
see.
C given L. Okay, that is so important, whenever the word given comes up, that you understand that this is what they're looking for. So it's a probability that she cycles given that she's late, okay? And the formula for that in this case is probability of C and, that's the word and, that's a little,
B equals.
it's this, and then it's that.
Okay.
Yes.
But I wouldn't have thought to do that because I thought if you just set up the tree diagram and then you find where she's late and just multiply across, then that's your answer, right?
But it's a given thing.
It's a given
Is
thing.
this a,
Oh,
this is a conditional problem?
That is exactly what it is. It's called a conditional probability. So something you might want to go look up
uh-huh.
is that thing called the
So
conditional.
you have to use that?
Have to use it. So it's a conditional probability, okay? And that 100% will be on the test. Okay? So we're not gonna actually do it today, but we're gonna go through them all, so you have like a basis to go through when you're looking at your test at home.
Mhm.
Okay, I think number 2 you should be familiar with. We did with this one on the test actually, so I'm hoping I can bypass it and move on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Do you guys remember that one at
Yeah.
all? Yeah, it's one of those, we did the table,
Probability
right?
distribution.
That's a probability distribution table.
With
That's
the
right.
little X and the big
Yeah,
X.
That's the little X and the big X, that's right, okay? And you all did that one on the actual test. And actually, the way it usually works is they ask you for one little specific one, and then it asks you to do the whole thing, okay? So then the next question is on any day at noon.
That's a lot of points.
It's a great amount of points, and yeah, 7 points out of 50. Literally, you're gonna go through this and go, yeah, I've seen this before, yeah, I get this, I've done this one before, you
Do
know?
you think stats is the easier test?
For you guys, typically, people come back and say it's an easier test.
It's
Mhm.
going to be focused so much on it. It's like, and it's all like connected.
Yeah.
It's easier.
A little different, it's shorter, it's a lot less stuff too.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, on any given day at noon, the probability that Kersley is asleep or studying is 0.2 or 0.6 respectively. Find the probability that in any 7-day period, they're either asleep or studying at noon on at least 6 days. Okay, does anybody remember those types of problems?
Isn't like choose like a Piper type thing? Like you choose 3 Pipers and all that?
It's actually the choose one, yeah. It's a binomial probability is what it is. Why is that?
Because you you're
Because it's
sleeping or
either
studying.
doing one of them or not doing
One or the other, right?
Pass or
Is that
fail.
like
The success or failure, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Isn't there like the things that it has to be in order to do that?
The full
Right, and so it
requirements.
has to have success or failure, right? What's the next one?
Just be consistent.
They have to be consistent all the way across,
Their
so
own error.
Oh,
it's,
I remember
it's
this now,
consistent
yeah.
all the way across, studying is
independent.
0.2, okay? Another one is that
They're independent.
they're independent of each other, so it doesn't matter if this happened, this doesn't get affected the next time, okay? And then, I don't remember off the top of my head. So we've hit the, yeah, look at your notes. So this is 100% one of those binomial probabilities, okay? Right? So, and what's the next one? Use an approximation to find the probability if any period of 100 days she's asleep at noon on most of the 30 days. How does that work? You're asleep at noon on most of the 30 days.
But in a
Sounds
period of
wonderful.
What's that? You're doing,
Fixed number of trials.
they actually, what is it called?
Fixed
Fixed number
number
of
of
trials, that's right,
trials.
it's minimal. In this case, how many were there? 7 days, and you had 6 days only that you're worried about. And then this one, you actually are going to go through the process of finding the mean and the variance, and they actually use the P of at most 30. And what they do when they're trying to find a probability is they change it into a z-score. And they go through that process. And we're gonna do this one together to make sure you understand it. But they do that whole process of finding the percentage of whatever the z-score turns out to be. Okay, the next one, we'll move it up. Number 4, totally lost that one. Down here, it's very deceiving. Okay, the time taken to cook an egg by people living in a certain town has a normal distribution. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Just got done with it. With a mean of 4.2 and a standard deviation of 0.6. Find the probability that it's chosen at random between 3.5 and 4.5 minutes. Okay, so you have your bell curve, you do your 3.5, 4.5, we kind of worked on some of those. 12% of the people take more than 2 minutes to cook the egg, find the value.
Plug it.
So you have to plug them in and work those. We're going to work those together.
Would that be X when you?
Yeah, when you're trying to solve for that, right. Okay, so that's another one that I hope feel very comfortable with and we're pretty familiar. When we see normal distribution, we should think that normal in the z curve. What about number 5? To me, number 5 is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points, and I'm hoping beyond hope that that's an easy 9 points that you can accumulate.
The charts are easy.
Okay.
To make sure like
That's first semester stuff, isn't it?
This is.
Yeah, I have to review that.
We have to
The-
review
The
this.
class boundaries and all that.
Class boundaries, class width.
XF, X squared F, mid-class, all that.
Just
You gotta make it touch. So how would you make this touch?
You just subtract one.
step 1.
Or you just,
Don't you subtract 0.5 and add 0.5?
Well, in this case,
Or-
it's 1,000,
No,
right?
yeah.
it'd be 9.
It's, you got a 7,500.
And then 7,500.
So subtract,
And
yeah.
then 12,500, et cetera, et cetera.
So subtract 500, add 500.
Exactly.
So that way they're touching each other.
500 from the 2,000.
Now, you know what they did? Let me show you the actual answer key, just for FYI. We're talking big numbers there, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does it quite conceivably, could you really go like from 3 to 7? And then, or 7.5, and then 7.5 to 12.5, and 12.5? And then what would you do with your key at the bottom?
Just say
Each number is about represented that.
Right, so it's actually representing how much?
Wait, what?
I'll show you here.
Oh.
Okay, so see what they did? Rather than writing thousands on the bottom of that histogram, instead of saying 3,000, they said 3.5.
no.
So, or not 3.5, 30, they did 30. I was thinking if you multiply by 10,000, but that's okay. So they did 10, 20, 30, and then they said in thousands.
Oh, yeah, so 10,000, 20,000.
Right,
Yeah.
so does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a really smart way to do it. Would you be wrong if you did up to 3,500, 3,500 to whatever? No, you'd be fine. But this is just yet another way to show that you can kind of break it down so you're not putting really big numbers down here.
Yeah.
Okay, but you were 100% right that you knew exactly that they had to touch, and that's so important. The reason why I wanted to kind of go over this today is because the one you have does not have a histogram. So you have to go back and review the histogram. That's really, really, really important. Yes.
Do you have to do everything? Like you have to have the mean and the.
It depends on what the question is. Like in this one, they're asking for a mean. I can see.
Yeah.
I'll bring the question back up. So it says on paper, draw the histogram, and then it says, hey there, part I calculate an estimate of the mean. So yes, you would do that chart. Remember that big table that we created? And you would have your mean on it as well. Yes?
Don't you multiply like the number of stadiums by the median of the capacities? Like you find the middle.
Yes, you have to find the
capacity,
middle.
And then
Right.
you multiply it by the number of stadiums.
Right.
And then you total that up and divide.
Right.
Alright.
So you have to find your mid-class. Just write that word down, and you got to go back and review that whole process. When you go back, and you find the mid-class, and then you multiply that by the number, and then you add them all up. You guys still have your notes from way back in the day? That would be something I would go back and look at. And then it says find which class of the table, which the median contains median, and which contains the lower quartile. So you're actually going to have to figure out the lower quartile and the median, which one
The
contains both.
median of the upper or the lower area.
So what's the median?
the
Middle number.
The middle, right. And then which one's the quartiles? Remember, it's 1/4 of it. It's the quarters of it. So the lower quartile is the bottom quarter
Oh,
of
okay.
it. It's the middle of the bottom, basically. Okay. So that's that question. So that's number 5, right? This particular test had 6 questions.
So we can
Really?
range from like 5 to 8, you would say.
Yeah.
And
Copenhagen.
And then-
Copenhagen.
Yeah, that's not the chewing tobacco.
It's the capital of Denmark.
Thank you. That's our boy.
There you go.
Find the number of ways all 10 letters in the word Copenhagen can be arranged. Does that look familiar?
Yes.
Yes.
So as of right now, if I'm looking at these 6 questions, hopefully you're looking at them going, there's really nothing foreign to me.
Right.
Uh-huh.
I've not seen any of it, so I can actually go, except for Copenhagen, is that what you said? That was good. So what you can do is you can actually go and start to review the different things that, I'm hoping that May, June brings the same kind of thing. So what you have in front of you is an actual test. What we have up here is an actual test. We're going to do both. I will post this one as well on Edline. That way, if we don't see each other, you can work through it without me. Or I could even leave it up here and you guys can do exactly what I've done here. Yes.
Do you have the,
Mark scheme
Mark scheme.
will be right here as well.
okay. And what is this called? Do you remember what the lesson was called when you had the letters?
Yeah, there's probability and
Permutations.
permutations and combinations.
Yeah, that one.
Okay, thank you.
So, honestly, I really think that there's nothing that you would be like, oh my goodness, I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that you guys hopefully will have a bit of a comfort level with it.
There's only 6 questions.
That's it on that one.
Well,
And then
There's 7 on this one.
And there's
so you can
7
range.
on
So
this
what's like
one.
the average?
Between 6 or 7, 8,
Wow.
yeah, max.
But if there's like 8, then that means there's probably 2 questions that are like pretty
That's
easy
kinda
ones.
simple.
Yeah.
Right. So what do we think?
Good.
Yeah. Okay, so do you guys want to start with number 6 and work our way down?
Let's
Might as
do
well.
6.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about how we do this problem. Find the number of ways in all 10 letters in the word Copenhagen can be arranged so that the vowels A, E, and O are together and the consonants C, G, H, N, P are together. Yes.
You group them together, and then you find all the ways you can order each different group, and then multiply by 2, because you can have one group and the other.
Right. So let's go through that and kind of write it out. So what are my letters? They're C, Copen, C-O-P-E-N.
H-A-G.
Thank goodness. Okay. So I know that my vowels A, E, and O must always be together. So we consider them,
One group.
There's
One
multiple
grouping.
E's though, right?
There's
So
2
how
E's.
does that work?
that's a good question.
But there's still only.
So they want us to include the other E too.
That
So
would-
we're just gonna have to do that divide restriction thing.
Yeah, divide by 2 factorial.
Ah, there you go.
Right, because they're not.
So are we doing this? Okay.
Yes.
Now what?
Then
Then
letters after.
C, G, H, N, and P always have to be together?
Uh-huh.
Is there anything left out?
An N.
Another N.
Oh, another N.
Okay.
Okay, now what?
Now we do them each individually and then multiply
Yeah,
by
what's the question?
If they just give us those 3, how do we know we need to include another?
because they're in the original word.
Well, yeah, in the original word, we actually have to look and say, oh, there's 2 E's.
Right, because if there wasn't
Yeah.
like.
They're just telling you which ones that
And
are
then it was
there,
just-
not how many. of them.
Right, yeah. They're telling you the vowels they want you to keep together. They
Yeah.
didn't kind of insinuate, make sure you pull them all in, because they want you to do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Just in case that you got a brain fart, you basically lose the point for the correct answer, but if you still did the right process, you'd be fine.
Typically, yes. If you forgot the extra E, or if you forgot that extra, they might kind of be concerned about that, but
Well, it's only 3 points.
it's only a 3-pointer, so it depends on how the points. We'll look at how the grade comes up. So that's a good question. So now what do I do? So, right. So what can happen in here?
That's 4.
4
So there's
factorial.
4 letters
But you have to do over 2 factorial.
because there's a repeat. Hi.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I'm just gonna get something.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And then what's the next one?
6
1,
factorial
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then
over 2.
then what?
Multiply them together.
No,
Solve
wait.
them and then times 2.
Why times 2?
Because there's
Because you can put the forwards.
Oh, you can switch them.
Right? It could be forward and backwards. So times 2. Are we good? Is everybody okay with that?
So you basically multiply.
So
everything
this
for
could
your
go
cost.
here, this could go here. So there's
Right.
2 different ways that could potentially happen.
Do we have like a factorial button on that?
Yeah.
yes,
You
we do.
should.
Under PRB, it's the third one over.
Miss K?
Yeah.
So for this you would do 4 factorial times 6 factorial times 2 over 2 factorial times 2 factorial.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? I'm gonna like click on this.
You did PRB, it's the third one over.
Thank you. I think it's under.
Oh, no, sorry.
Thank you.
So, 8640?
Yep. Finally found the page. It was lost in about 8, 11, 10-ish.
Oh, so you multiply all of them.
All right, so did everybody see it? So 4 factorial over 2 factorial times 6 factorial over 2 factorial times 2. So 8640.
So you have to do the 4 factorial or 2 factorial to get anything, and it'll still get non-points.
Right. So how do the points happen? You would have to have, here's what you need to remember. For the points to happen, because Jamie had asked that, 4 factorial over 2 factorial or 6 factorial over 2 factorial have to be seen somewhere.
So you don't get
So
points.
you wouldn't get the points. Okay? So it's either or. Both would be preferable, of course, but as long as you have one or the other. And then the next one says you multiply by 2. So even if you didn't do this part right, if you multiplied it by 2,
You still get a
you'd
point.
get a point. And then
then
last but
final.
not least, your final answer. Okay?
So you get a point if you multiply by 2.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, hey, we'll take it. Okay, so what's the next question? The next question was, or the next part to that question, that the E's are not next to each other.
That space.
That's that space thing.
It's like the space.
That's not
Remember
that.
we did it like a space
It's
thing?
only 2.
We did, yeah.
So what do you place first in the space thing?
The things without the stipulations.
You do a space. You do a space.
Yeah, you do a space,
Start with space, and then we'll do just the Copenhagen.
Right.
E's.
omitting the E's, that's right. So you put a space, and then you put a letter like the C, and then you put a space, and then you put a letter like an O, and you put a space, and then you put the letter, and you do all the way, skipping the E's as you go,
Uh-huh.
okay? Then you could place your E's in any of those slots. Does that make sense what I just said?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so let's go ahead and look at what that looks like, and then we'll probably have to go, unfortunately. So we have blank, I'm going to use C. Blank, I'm going to use O. Blank, I'm going to use P. Blank, I'm skipping E. Blank, I've got N. Blank, I've got H. Sorry, it's going to go under here. Blank, I've got A. Blank, I've got G. Blank, skip the E. And blank, I've got N. Another blank, right?
Uh-huh.
Copenhagen.
Yeah, right. So, first and foremost, how many different ways can these guys be rearranged?
8 factorial over 2 factorial.
So 8 factorial over 2 factorial. Explanation?
There's
Oh,
8
there's 2
spaces.
N's and there's 8.
Right. 8, okay. Then what happens?
Times 2 factorial.
Because what happens is, I know that E could go here or here, right? Or here or here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right?
Right.
So then, yes,
It would be 9 permute 2.
9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spots.
But you're only wanting to put two with the two E's, right?
Do you have to do something like that? Isn't it just?
You're choosing,
How did we get the 8
you're placing them in order.
I thought it was just times.
Oh, eight.
Here it is. Oh, why? Here you are. Okay, so there's two methods. We're doing the second method, okay? So we've got the 8 divided by 2 ways, and then you have to insert the E 9 ways. So you insert the E.
Choose, it is choose. 9 choose 2. Over there, you see.
What you said is 9 permute 2.
Because isn't the order matters in this
And
case.
then there, but that says
It
that
says
up there
or
too.
9.
9 commute 2.
Why are they both?
So they both work.
They do. Because
Is that NP?
here's what's happening here, okay? This part we get, right?
Right.
Everybody cool with that?
Mhm.
And he's 100% right. We have, if I'm thinking about this, I know there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spots to potentially put it in.
Uh-huh.
Let's say I put the E in first,
Uh-huh.
right? Now how many spots do I have left?
8.
I have 8. So really what's happening is I have 9 times 8.
Mhm.
But what's the problem with my letters that I'm looking at?
You have 2.
There's actually 2 of them, right? There are 2 E's. So how do I handle that business?
Divide by 2.
Divide by 2.
So you don't divide the whole thing by 2, just the, like 9
Right.
times 8. Okay.
Right. So here's one way that they took the answer by.
Yeah.
Here's a second way that would have worked, or a third way that would have worked. Personally, I like it where we know that we had 9 spots, got rid of 1, then 8 spots. And then you divide it by 2. Do you always have to divide it by 2? Not necessarily, because this letter that we're inserting might be 2 different letters.
So then what would
So
you
let's
do?
say it was an S and a T, then it would just be 9 times 8. And you wouldn't divide by,
Because there's not 2 the same number. I mean, same letter.
right, yes.
And then couldn't they ask like where all the E's are together?
Correct, and that's kind of what we did earlier,
And
when it
then
was
just
about
put
like
together
one.
one.
It's like we've got the unit thing and then it moves around and then they can intertwine in their
Right.
own spaces.
Right, so, okay, so I'm gonna put this up for today, and we're not together tomorrow, of course we're not. Design testing.
Are you just, are you,
So,
Just working on this.
tomorrow, work on your take-home one,
That's awesome. I think
and I'll put this one online. Yeah.
Yes.